Welcome to the Hat Chat Podcast, episode 78, with your chill hosts today, Chris Trott.
Ross Hornby.
Alex Smith. That was John Woodboard?
John
Woodburn.
Cockburn.
Woodburn. That was very nice.
Woodburn.
I like that. It sounded like some real instruments in there as well.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think we have a rule you shouldn't be using real instruments.
Right. It's got to be done on an
Digital
iPad.
only.
Yeah.
Thanks, John Woodburn. That is not the first one they've sent to us. And it won't be the last, right, John Woodburn? Because you're very good at it. Thank you. Right, while Ross struggles with his...
Sorry, he's loud. He's being loud.
He's being very loud today. Let's introduce the Hat Chat. For anyone that hasn't listened to us before, what do we do here, Alex Smith? Why would they listen to three white men talk inane opinions about things?
Yeah, we're a podcast that talks for about 40 minutes every Friday. We talk about some hypothetical things that our online user base has sent us, asked us, and yeah, it gets pretty heavy sometimes. It can get pretty political. We're all pretty lefty, even though I don't really think it's very helpful to call oneself left or right anymore. But yeah, I mean, if you're new to it, you'll probably notice that we're pretty lefty, whilst also being self-employed, entrepreneurial in some ways, living in the self-styled socialist shithole of Bristol. But come watch and listen to us. We put this on YouTube. We are in youtube.com/hatchatpodcast, is it?
Yeah. Sure, yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's also available ad-free. And if you support us on Patreon, you get to ask us questions via the hypothetical polls, and also have access to an ad-free version of this. It was also broadcast live on Twitch TV/HatFilms every Friday from 2 p.m. UK time.
So much
today,
promo.
Yeah,
a lot of promo for something that they would have to listen to first.
Exactly. So thanks for being here.
But
they may have just tuned in. You're right.
It's a great question.
A brief, what we're talking about and why we do it. But the hypothetical is a big one. That's what we usually do the first half of our podcast about. So I go on Patreon. I put 3 options for crazy, thought-provoking or silly questions that just get a conversation started. And then Patreon decides which ones are the best. And they have decided this week on the following, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, and then, there's another addendum, and then me and Ross make it about Harry Potter somehow.
We turn it to Harry Potter.
It always comes back around to Harry Potter, yeah.
But I think it's always important to try and find the funny. Sometimes we don't find the funny.
No.
It's dark and serious.
It does get dark.
But
that's the question's
I try
fault.
to steer it to the funny. It's important to go that way.
It is.
Yeah, true. In which case...
Patreon question number 1. What is something popular now, but everyone will look back at 5 years from now and think is stupid and embarrassing?
NFTs?
I think so.
I
don't know. I really still don't. I don't understand them.
I do.
Now, when you say NFTs, non-fungible tokens in and of themselves are literally just a unique token, right? Sure. They don't have to be associated with this current trend, which is artwork is specifically an NFT, right? And people are getting art and then they're claiming it as theirs. And that's mine because I've got the NFT non-fungible token associated with that. That's my art. I bought it. That's the current trend, absolutely, that I think is going to be embarrassing in 5 years from now when they spent like 50 grand on a pixelated monkey.
Yeah. What is it? I don't know what. I just don't get it. I think that's it. Maybe in 5 years' time it'll become really clear and really obvious, and it'll be every game we play. It's just like, but right now it's a concept I don't fully understand or enjoy or like the idea of. But it seems like that it could die, could pop. It's the bro culture around it, the crypto bro culture around, like, I don't know if you've seen, like,
I don't like
all
the
these
culture.
Guys, like, but my Bored Ape image is like, okay, spent 5K on a JPEG.
So I think the most sensible and most safe way to think about it, without making some sweeping statement that'll make you look like an idiot in 5 years as well. There's always that risk. I think is to say that it's become an asset class. It's become a thing that you can spend money on, much like stocks and shares, much like crypto, although crypto also has the use of being a currency in and of itself rather than just its speculative value, even though the majority of people who hold crypto still are into it for its speculative value, i.e. how much you could potentially make in cash from holding it and selling it in the future. That's speculation. But they're not thinking of it as, I need this to make transactions, I need this to buy things, which is really the most important thing that crypto needs to do to make that leap from speculative to use. Anyway, and then other assets like gold and silver and things like that, ultimately people will always, I think, hold these and cash and dollars, pounds, things like that. They will always hold these things in some form over the foreseeable future. For me, I'm talking like 20-30 years. I think that people will hold those in different amounts. However, like with all of these things, it's about how much everyone trusts and believes in that asset, right? Whether or not everyone participates in, like, how much gold and silver is being bought and sold and held, how many pounds, how many dollars are being used, where are they existing, right? I think that crypto, gold and silver, and sterling and currency holds more value and can garner more belief than proving you can own a picture of a monkey, right? Like, because art, portrait art and things like that is used as an asset and an investment. It's in the same way, and you could argue that NFTs are the same thing, that they are paintings that you are holding for future, like a Monet or whatever. And in some ways it's been used to say that. So like art, this is a way to own digital art. This is a way to own the Monet of the future, the Picasso of the future. But like you say, it's mainly, but I don't think people have sold it. When crypto was starting to become a thing, people were excited about crypto. People were interested. People wanted to know more about it. The vast majority of people I've spoken to or heard about in NFTs are like, this is so dumb. And that's all it takes. For example, gold and silver is used more in manufacturing than gold is, and platinum even more still, I think. However, people hear gold, they think gold has been historically trusted. There's a cultural appreciation for that asset. So really, it's about making a good decision. And right now, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I think NFTs are a strange concept. I don't think they're going to be, in their current form, particularly popular. Like Trott says, if it gets used and adapted into something else, some other system using, maybe. So I don't want to write it off, but
yeah, the tech is good.
Yeah. The ape thing.
Yeah, the ape thing's dumb,
yeah,
and I think
it's embarrassing.
Yeah, like you say, it's damaging the value of what cryptocurrency could be by having essentially rich people like throwing around their money and claiming that they own a picture. I think that damages the idea of what cryptocurrency actually is, which is beyond just like, I own this image, you could right-click Save As, and more about, you can make transactions and have a ledger which proves you made that transaction happen, and it's decentralized, and on the surface of it, that's like not going through a government, it's not going through a private company, it's proven to have happened by a network of ledgers and computers saying that, yes, this is a legit transaction, and it's non-trackable as well. Or it is
decentralization is great. Yeah. Absolutely. Like decentralization of things like this.
Are our governments going to allow cryptocurrency ultimately? Like, at the moment, there's control.
This is the thing. It's not. They have no control over it. They can say it's banned, as in you can stop purchases, I think. But then ultimately, you can stop mining. I think in like China stopped it, I believe, and then they just moved all their servers elsewhere. So because it's decentralized, you can stop it. I think India are trying to stop it as well. I'm sure you could
make it a crime to trade in it, but then, like Ross says, it's incredibly hard to track trades across networks. You'd have to have a level of surveillance, or admit to a level of surveillance rather, because I'm almost certain, like I say, GCHQ, our home intelligence services, had and probably still do have a full tank monitoring system, as in every piece of information that flows through the major fiber optic networks of the UK goes through their servers. Now, that's a gigantic amount of information and very, very difficult to process. So, there is still some anonymity in the crowd. However, it's ultimately they'd have to admit to being able to spy on you beyond how they would monitor, a crypto network. They'd have to do it via your browser or through your phone, like working out what you're doing. And at that point, I mean, you need crypto. At that point, you need crypto because your government is so authoritarian.
This is the thing. Like, this is what makes it so transparent what the government's like agendas are. Essentially, is look how quickly the uptake of digital currency was. It was super fast to get chip and pin to make it as easy as possible to have traceable online purchases using your bank account and make it as quick and easy as possible, like near field communication. Just double tap on your phone, and every bank now has a digital version of your card, so that you can do it easier than getting cash out, because we can't trace cash as easily. So put it all on your phone, have it all on a online bank account. In fact, let's let all these online banks exist, because we can trace them too, because they're just essentially like MasterCard versions of the same thing. They're all traceable, right? They're all trackable by the government. They know where all the money is going now, and it's a lot easier than ever to make small transactions using your phone, send someone something like bank transfer, than it is to like get some money out of an ATM and then distribute without the government knowing where that money's going. So
you can track wallets, individual wallets, and the amounts that have gone in and out of them, but you can't. I don't know if it's easy to track who owns that wallet, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a time there was a coin that literally rocketed, and some guy basically managed to turn what was $8,000 into $5 billion.
Oh my god!
And then they were like, "Holy shit! This account is like loaded now." But also, that's a risk, because that coin now has one person has a huge percentage of that specific token. And then when they started trying to take out tens of millions, they started tracing where that was coming from. But they don't know who did it. They can't necessarily ask an individual. But imagine that 5 billion, and you're like, what the fuck? How you can't? And just trying to take that out would take a long time. And I think it would devalue by the time you actually manage to get out most of it. But just kind of take out tens of millions.
But that's an example though, like, right? So like market. This is where you can't get too confused with like the value of decentralization versus its role in like a fairer society. It's not. It could be argued that it's not necessarily, has a role. Like decentralization is great because it empowers. It doesn't really empower, but it doesn't empower the bad guys either. I think that's the most important thing about decentralization, is that it almost allows it to be unbiased. It allows it to be much harder to manipulate, and in a way democratizes it. But at the same time, it can, like, market forces aren't really democratic. Like, so like you're saying, like in that situation where that person becomes the major holder of a currency, and ultimately if they cashed it all out or held on to all of it, they would have such a degree of sort of leverage and power over the rest of the market that they are, essentially the market, or those who hold the coin, are subservient in a way, or at the beck, and they could manipulate the price of the currency to impoverish people or whatever. There's all sorts of crazy things you could do in that situation, and because it's decentralized and because it doesn't have bank level regulations or government level regulation, it can be abused because, like I say, market forces don't care about people. They aren't socialized constructs. Even if it's decentralized, it's not like a socialized construct. It's still a wave that everyone's trying to ride, as an ocean everyone's trying to stay on top of, and so these are other things to consider, and that's also the things to consider. Like, that's becoming more and more. It's really interesting, I think, really culturally interesting, because the left has always been associated with shit like this, and like social ideas, and like Silicon Valley and things like that. Very progressive. Progression and progressive, is the opposite to conservatism. Where they want to conserve traditions, they want to conserve things, that's what we think. But really, the left and progression and all that sort of stuff, taking massive risks and creating really strange new systems that we have no idea of the impact of. Social media, for example, is a great example of that. And so it is important to maintain a level head.
Business can exploit it and actually make it a damaging thing.
It's
the other thing about crypto, I think, which has current currency with going through a bank, there's a level of safety and protection that those banks offer. For example, if something were to happen to my Lloyd's bank account, some like weird transaction were to happen without my knowledge, the fraud team would stop it, try and block it automatically, and then I could also just call up somebody and say, I did not make that transaction, and I can prove as so, and they can also just reinvest
you're alone
that money
if you
back.
lose your ledger.
And
yeah,
there's a level of protection. Like, imagine, everything is on you at this point with your wallet. Like, if you lose that or someone takes it somehow, that's it. Like, there is no one you can go to say, can I get reimbursed? Is there insurance for this? Or, I guess there would be like third-party insurance, like will protect your digital wallet or whatever and reimburse you the amount. But it's just going to be a bit of a wild west, I think, until there's some like proper structure on how to be safe with your crypto. I feel like it's going to be so easy to lose it.
Yeah.
Or
Definitely. It's just like, imagine I think I said this to a friend of mine who has quite a sizable amount of crypto. I said, well, what happens if you die suddenly? And like, you just have this anonymous kind of like account somewhere that no one has access to. You've just, all that money is going nowhere else. So it loses value. That's the other issue with, I guess, redistribution of wealth is it's just gone. I don't know where
that's true. It doesn't redistribute.
It's just stuck in the system.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
So that's a concern, I guess.
That's a really good point.
If you alert your solicitor enough we'll give them all the details, and that's what you would do anyway with other details. I guess you would give them. I've not actually made a will, so maybe I should.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's still things in place where that money that you have would not just wither and die. There would be like the bank that owns that money would then have access to it in some form. But yeah, there's a lot of flaws, and also obviously the environmental impact right now with the way cryptocurrency works. That's one of those big damaging opinions on crypto. As soon as people talk about crypto, it's like, oh, the thing that makes people's computers like run really hot and is damaging the environment, along with, is it those stupid monkey picture things that are buying like JPEGs?
There's a race, isn't there? There's a race to try and make something that's efficient rather than like the older coins such as like Bitcoin, Ethereum and stuff, like where they are high energy use, like they just are. The transactions, it costs a lot. So yeah, when a coin comes out that's like actually going to be energy efficient as well, that's more interesting and probably more valuable. But I think
so.
There's so many different cryptocurrencies out there as well. It's just a bloody minefield.
And they're all vying to be the next big thing.
NFTs just confuse me, but maybe I haven't read enough about them. But I feel like it does right now seem odd, just because the concept is quite laughable. Just because it's like, well, everyone's like, oh, right click, I've got it as well. You spent 5K on it, lol. And it's just like,
even if that's not
maybe
the truth,
maybe it will grow to be this amazing thing, or be adapted to a usable format for the average person. But it's when there's games like FIFA saying they're going to start utilizing it. It's just like, God, imagine being a little kid and just like wanting a player, and some fuckers bought it for like 10 grand or something. Like, what is the point in playing this game? Like at that stage, you're just like, fuck this. You
basically put it in an auction house.
People already like that with it as is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it gets shit.
I think at the moment it's dangerous, and to like commit for a big company like EA to commit to something like in its current state to say that NFTs are the future and we're going to have NFTs in our or whatever is, I think, dangerous marketing. And also, they're clearly trying to exploit the profits to be made off of it. Like, it's very obvious why they're introducing such a thing into the game. It's not to have a better gaming experience for the end user. It's to like, oh, I see profit potential here, so I'm going to exploit the shit out of that and the user base. So
it's pretty weird, isn't it?
Are there any other things that we think could be popular now? So I saw some people in chat saying TikTok, but I mean, it might survive the test. I mean, maybe the thing is, TikTok is all sorts of different things. It's not just the dancing. I mean, the dancing is pretty cringe at times, but like,
shit anyway on social media.
Exactly. Everything.
And also, if it encourages people to get active, I genuinely think that's not a bad idea. It just might look a bit stupid, or you might walk past someone doing it, like, well, that's fucking dumb to see in real life, but fuck it. But in 5 years, it might have adapted to be this mega platform. I mean, it's already huge.
It's huge. It's one of the biggest huge platform. It's the platform right now.
Yeah.
It's the biggest social media platform, I think, for younger generations at least.
So it's a case of them, growing further and adapting that more. I don't think necessarily that will be considered stupid and embarrassing. Maybe some stuff that it's like YouTube, that you go back, there's people do stupid stuff
Harlem
and it is
Shake.
Embarrassing. But the content, the
stupid trends,
will be
embarrassing. Like, there's a lot of TikTok trends which are embarrassing.
Yeah, there are loads, and also some just like there's always in the news like some like people getting banned from schools because of doing random TikTok things or challenges that just are dangerous or
burning the toilets.
Stupid. Yeah. So I don't know. Anything else?
I think that's just humans being stupid and having a platform to show the stupidity and getting praised for it. I think as long as that exists, it's not really the platform that's doing it. It's the fact that they got an audience and are being praised for it and celebrated. There's always going to be embarrassing, cringy shit in the human race because that's what we do. Especially
well, people spending like silly money on Pokemon cards as well. Is that like? But that's always been a thing, I guess. In terms
it's
of
the same
been,
stuff.
Like, it's the same kind of concept as the NFT thing and stuff. It's kind of like people have put a value to something, and then everyone's like, going, "Why have you spent so much on a piece of card?" But people put value to it. So yeah.
Do you think anti-vaxxing is going to be embarrassing in 5 years?
It's embarrassing now.
I'd like to think so.
Yes, it's embarrassing now. It's not something that's like now. It's shit now.
God.
I don't know what, because like my life is an embarrassment, so it's hard to see.
Your life is an embarrassment.
No. We do stupid shit in our videos. I do a lot of stupid shit in our videos, and I could say the next day that oh god, I could be embarrassed by that, but at the same time, I'm just like, there's nothing I find that embarrassing, really. It's just more like, well, it's not something I do. Each to their own.
Maybe so. Yeah, I don't know really. Like, obviously things change over time, but I'm just trying to think of what's popular now. Because obviously
I think that our mindsets might change. I think that sometimes I think about the way that I thought about something a few years ago, and I mean I don't mean necessarily like anti-problematic shit, like, oh, I won't make those jokes anymore, all that stuff. I mean actually perhaps even the other way, like sometimes I over process and I overthink about things, and like I try to be too sensitive, or I try to be, I don't know, other shit, and then you're just like, man, no, I probably have really overthought this, or I really, it's the classic thing of like trying to rep someone or something or an idea, and then you realize like that person or that idea doesn't need protecting, or your say or your opinion, and then you feel afterwards you're like, no, fuck no, of course not. Like it's almost like
a right thing, but it's like going too hard
exactly. Yeah, and then you realize a few years later you're like, oh, god, yeah, that was a bit much or something. Like I think that everyone feels like that. That's just change. That's just progress. That's growth. I
if you're embarrassed in 5 years about something you did in the past, you have grown as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least society has moved away from the cringy thing that they were doing 5 years ago. They're no longer doing awkward TikTok dances. They've moved forward and have found a new thing to embarrass everyone with. So there's it.
Yeah, it's quite hard, especially when we talk all the time online. It must be hard. It's the one thing I worry about is like being hypocritical, which is probably does happen. Where we say one thing and then do the other, or eventually you're actually on board with the idea. Like because I have crypto and stuff. I've never really slagged crypto off, but I think we have collectively like either poo-pooed the idea, but then have also like when 2017 when we first kind of were introduced to it, we were like quite excited by the idea. We once you learn more, you can kind of.
I was excited by NFTs as well. I was talking about
the idea was interesting, wasn't it?
This is like another revenue stream for artists that struggle in their field, and
it really could be used for that too. But like Ross says, it's just been picked up by like crypto bros who are just the most cringy motherfuckers in the world, and I'm glad that it's becoming recognized, because I see quite a few of them on Twitter and stuff, and it's just like, oh god, this guy is really cringing me out.
And YouTube gaming. It's like constantly talking about it.
He's ex Call of Duty pro.
Those people are moving to YouTube gaming. Well, big Twitch people are being bought off to move over there. But I find it such a hard platform to kind of jump into, because I think unless you're already subscribed to somebody, I just find it's just like a wall of, so it's just a top list.
That's why I originally
best of, and it's I don't know.
That's why I originally got out of crypto when we originally got into 2017. Like, I was just a bit intimidated by it all, and I was like, I don't understand this enough to risk like what I'm doing. And nowadays I kind of I think I have a small amount of money in crypto, like, I have a few £100, and just because it's interesting to learn about, like this other financial market, like especially at our age where we were, well, these two have now already bought houses, but like, you start thinking about those
crypto.
things, and you start you start engaging more with like financial things, right? Like I think it's like the most likely time for a person to get into stock trading is like in their late 20s to early 30s, and that's especially nowadays with retail apps and things. I think it's just personally something that's quite interesting at the moment.
Well, that's a good point about retail apps, because like when we first tried to do it, it was a pain in the ass trying to even like buy any crypto. We were like going through various like websites and wallets and stuff. And it reminds me of the time Duncan lost a hard drive with 3 or 4 Bitcoin on.
Oh my god!
Never got that back.
Really?
That's just gone. Yeah, it might be more than that.
Hard drive.
Obviously, he bought it for
more
very tiny amount of money.
That's so painful.
And that's like, that guy could buy a house.
And like Trott said earlier, that's the risks of crypto. That's the fucking risks of it. Like
there's no one to call up to say, can I get like a new wallet, please? It's gone.
But going back to what we were saying about, and this kind of segues into have we had an ad break yet?
We should have one though. It's a great time. Now. So we'll see you in a moment. Obviously, if you're on Patreon, you won't get this ad. So we'll see you in a moment. Welcome back. Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
That's fine.
It's a necessary evil.
The second hypothetical here is kind of something I want to blend into an idea that I had a minute ago.
Okay.
Are there any unwritten rules where you work? If so, what are they? And I say where you work, I suppose they mean like us, I presume.
That's why
how
put it
we
in.
work.
Yeah, because obviously I'm trawling through the internet, looking for really interesting hypothetical questions to pose every week. And this one came up, and I was like, maybe there are some unwritten rules of being a content creator / influencer.
What happened to that giant list? Have we already exhausted those?
Oh, we've exhausted that, yeah.
Really?
Oh, wow.
It's just crap
I guess
ones
we
left.
Two.
I'm looking for good ones, or trying to get good ones.
But no, what I wanted to say was earlier on, just before we went back onto the crypto, Ross was saying about like being a hypocrite, right? And like worried that you're a hypocrite. I mean, I think that in a way filters in with the old imposter syndrome as well. Is the other one. They kind of are bedfellows, I think, in a way. No, I was thinking. Sometimes I think about like how we think and how we see things, and whether be they work related or life related or whatever. And I think, especially because like during the pandemic, we've been just like doing a lot of interacting with each other digitally, right? Like every day, like 3 hours a day at least, we're talking directly to each other, and not really direct as well, but I mean, like we are essentially our outside experience of each other, right? So this is the meeting your work friends or the whatever element of our life a lot of the time. And it makes me realize when I talk to other people, be it my family or friends or whatever, that we have quite a specific way of thinking and doing things that actually we all share, and actually isn't much like what a lot of people think sometimes, as in like we all think, or I think we approach or see ideas or challenges in similar ways a lot of the time, which is what you'd expect from 3 people that have spent that amount of time interacting with each other. And it's do you notice that when you speak to other people or your family, or do you feel a bit like, I don't know, it's very strange to think sometimes?
I speak to other people for one. But yeah, sometimes. But again, like, it's entirely the same in my opinion. Like when I speak to parents or like brother, they're in their little ecosystem that hasn't really shifted that much since I last spoke to them. And there is a level of difference there that I've come to accept, that they are willing to know as much about my opinions and things as they can be bothered to learn, and the rest they are not going to be bothered to try to understand. If that's what you mean, I'm not sure what you think, what you're trying to get at.
Do you mean as in like you talk differently to us?
Like our opinions, our
we're
leftist ways?
we're live
Or...
No,
time,
I think that because I've got used to understanding the way that you both interpret things, I expect other people to think like that more often than they do. I think, you know, like as in like I'll do or think a certain way about something and just expect other people around me to think like that.
Well,
but
like
really,
COVID or like
yeah,
sort of
to an
thing?
extent. I mean, COVID's one of them, definitely. You know, like sometimes I have to think like, you know, how much am I letting this like oppress me? You know, because frankly, at the moment, in the last few years, I felt like I'm just waiting for it to be over in terms of like putting a lot of the bigger things off, you know, like you know, we're not doing our big trips, are we? We're not doing our many of our, we've done quite a few good projects recently, to be fair. We've actually managed to get some stuff done, but
that's taken some time to get there though.
It feels, you know, like we're still kind of in limbo a little bit.
It does, yeah. Well, we went from daily content on the main channel, like every day doing stuff constantly, coming up with new ideas, creativity. Like it's intense, but like it was a flow that we kind of got down to an art to a degree. We kind of got on with it and we cracked on. And then for that to just suddenly stop, and then there's a huge gap in between, a bit of uncertainty. Yeah, it's a bit odd. So yeah, it's knowing when to get into that same flow. Like we've done well with the Twitch stuff. I think that's kind of been a great safety blanket in that degree, but I do miss doing that other stuff because, yeah, like you say, like I don't know whether it's safe to go to a certain place, or like, is it going to be just bogged down by a lot of safety procedures because we just want to get on and do stuff, right?
Like how unsafe are we, you know, or how safe are we, you know? Like it's really hard to judge. You're like, because like sometimes I think,
people
like,
don't give a
shit.
shit at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like sometimes I think, oh, that was a bit risky today. Like, oh man, I want to get out of this supermarket because it's super busy. You know, like I still think like that. Like I'm real. Whilst other people have, you know, been having to go to work on a fucking crowded bus every single day, and they've still managed to dodge it. You know, or like it hasn't affected them.
You
and
see where this polarization comes from, because you're thinking like that and thinking, look at all these reckless people being so reckless and like they're just getting away with it, and then we're making assumptions about them, saying like they must be doubling down because every time they go out and not getting COVID, they're reinforcing their own beliefs that everything's fine, it's not as bad as everyone's making out to be. Whereas I imagine from their perspective, it's just a case of, look at these guys just like isolating themselves all the time, not doing anything. They are like withering away when they could be out here like rejoining society and enjoying themselves a bit more.
Yeah, like are we wasting?
They're already vaccinated. What are they worried about?
Yeah. To be fair, because there's been points where I've been like, oh, like, you know, like in reality, it's almost like you kind of look at like a footballer's career in the sense of like, oh, how long do they're only active for a certain period of time? Like, is that we don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, look at other creators; they do go on for a very long time. But it's just like, is that gap of time wasted?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've tried to make the most of it where we can, but like, is there opportunities that we've missed out on because of it? But
certainly,
like we said before, it's kind of like we can't really linger on that as much as
it doesn't help.
My anxieties do linger on it. I don't want to think about that, and you just look to the future and be like, what can we do, and make it work. But I don't know if that's gone off the point of what you were originally saying.
No, I mean, no, it's good to like, that's interesting. Like,
but,
I think, no, for sure. That is in part, like, that is definitely an element of it. Like COVID's one thing. I think that is not all things. I think that, like, I also think that, you know, I'm always trying to appreciate like how different like we have things sometimes, you know, like how like it's been almost 10 years now, and just trying to remember
to a degree,
because
when you're talking about your friends there and talking to them, I don't talk about what we do here, as in, because I just don't. It's a different way of working, right? It's a very strange. I don't know. It's very bizarre. Like, I don't know. People are sitting there watching us right now.
Exactly.
That's like a strange thing to think about.
We have this strange life, and what I mean is like that essentially gives, like, we all have a certain lens, right? Everybody has a certain lens that they see life through, and that lens is shaped by their experiences, it's shaped by their obligations, it's shaped by their interests, you know, all these things. And like, we have a strange lens, we have an unusual lens, I think, and that then changes your feelings about things, your ideas about things. It gives us, like, we have a lot of time to just think about things. I think, like, we have more time probably than we would have had working in a 9 to 5. And so, like, how indulgent is my thinking is what I'm trying to get to. Like, how, like, we like talking about crazy shit. We worry about certain things at the same rate. Like, we all have similar feelings and concerns about similar issues. And then when you go and talk to people who've had a completely different life for the last 10 years or whatever, and trying to see their concerns, their worries, sometimes, I guess, like, going back to originally what you were saying about, like, and this question, are there any unwritten rules? Like, I think the unwritten rules are the way we think and the way that, like, our priorities, and, like,
well, we have an audience to consider, right?
Yeah.
When we say stuff, we know that what we say has an impact on a group of people, and, like, obviously sometimes, we'll speak our mind and stuff, but I think it is important to be careful about what you say online. You see people just saying whatever, I've got no filter, it doesn't matter. It's just like, I think you should have some filter. Like, I mean, I think it's important to kind of think about what you're saying and know that it has an impact to people, and
I think
not be offensive for no good reason, or, a lot of what we do is supposed to be done in jest. And when we do say stuff that's outrageous, it's normally done in a jokey way.
Well,
and it's those are things we consider as an unwritten rule, right?
I wouldn't consider it active, though. I wouldn't consider us, like, constantly thinking, oh, should I say that in front of people or shouldn't I? It's more, it's become the way we are through just naturally being in front of an audience. We've mediated our the way we speak and the way we interact with each other and our audience over 10 years of just subconsciously considering, like, the responses we're getting and how we're reacting to each other is shaping the way we interact now. And also, like, that's probably made us a very unique lens on the world and our opinions. And when that suddenly is taken out of its little bubble of performing on camera to a YouTube audience or Twitch audience to interact with someone else that's done a 9 to 5 or has a regular quote mark job, or has a regular life, different kind of career that's a bit more obvious, then you suddenly realize the stark contrast of the way we live. It's a privileged life, really, but it's also a very, very indulged, like Smith says. We've thought about everything and how to, like, not piss off many people as we possibly can, and take on board everyone's opinions, try and, like, figure out which opinions are correct and incorrect all the time. Mediate us, like, are we incorrect sometimes, and change that when that's not most people's problems on a day-to-day, like them going to work and doing their job and coming back home again. They don't have to wrestle with that, but they have to wrestle with so many other problems, obviously, that I'm not saying that we got a hard job here, but we have a lot of philosophical conundrums on a daily basis about existence and how to interact with people online specifically. So it's not even like the real world even. It's like talking to people through text chat with, like, all the tone and all the body language removed. You're taking a lot of, like, it's a bizarre.
This is actually that's interesting. That is definitely something that I've spoken to friends and family about, like, specifically about things like gender issues and things like that as well. Like, the environment, like the online environment is, well, at least in the online elements of the online environment that we interact in. I know there are, like, many different communities within the online environment, but for me, at least, the ones that I've seen we're very, like, we're trying to be, I would say, progressive. I mean, I'm not saying that, like, we're, like, the priests of woke or something like that, but, like, you meet people who are genuinely going through stuff and you try to understand what they're going through, and then you're like, shit, no, human beings can, like, I've learned something else about human beings and, like, what they can be, and like, for example, like, trans issues and stuff like that in LARP, in terms of people transitioning or people identifying differently. And it goes from being what a lot of people see as, like, a headline or an article about, like, oh, woke mob trying to get rid of Christmas, to, like, no, this is just a person that has a very complicated existence and they're trying to work that out in their own way, and they're just kind of asking you to give them a little bit of space whilst they do that. in the form of, you know, calling them a preferred pronoun or some shit like that, and you're just like, sure, like that's no worries, and that's all it takes. And for me, that's quite nice. That's a bit of a gift to exist in a space like that. And it frustrates me when I have to talk to people who
exist
don't exist
everywhere, though. Yeah,
exactly, who've never been through that. And I get it, and I'm like, yeah, I try to be patient. You know, like you haven't had the time, or you haven't had the space, or the correct friendships,
the endless
or whatever
free time that we have.
Yeah.
Talking about it for 3 hours on a stream every day.
Yeah.
But that's the other unwritten rule as well. Like in terms of like, I think we agreed quite a while ago that it's quite easy to burn out. It really is. Like in this industry, we've been lucky to have like a group of us to actually kind of discuss this stuff. There are people who just will just stop making content because it gets a bit much. Whereas we're like, okay, because it goes back to like, what is a normal job? What is a normal job like, hours and stuff? And when someone's like, oh man, you just do a 9 to 5, you should be just stream all day long, do it like till whatever. And people don't really appreciate that. You talk to the same people for like 10 hours a day or something, you would go nuts, or you run out of things to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, so we try and keep it in hot burst. Well, I say burst. I mean, 3 hours is a good amount of time, I think. We try to keep it within a period of time that's reasonable for 3 people to keep things still interesting for the audience as well. So that's kind of an unwritten rule. Well, it's not really written anyway, but it's something that we definitely agreed on, and we've been like, that should work for us, because if we do too much, we're just either going to get just no content, because we cycle through the same conversations all the time. I mean, sometimes we try and make it different, but like, it happens. But you don't go 10 years talking to the same people without trying to, you know, keep it fresh. So that's one thing we try to do.
And there's the other tricky quandary I find of our reward mechanism is also our job. I find that one tricky, where I'm like, I spent 3 hours playing games, and what do I fancy doing this evening, or what would I like to do this evening? Probably play this game, and so you kind of like should
I stream that game, because
exactly.
But
and you're like, no,
you have to have a separate.
Or like, I love this thing, but I know I couldn't stream it. You know, like I love this game, but I know it's not entertaining to watch or whatever like that. Like, and that's really fucky, because everything you do, and then everything just has to be fun as well. You know, like oh, I don't
be
valuable. That doesn't sound fun, and or worth lots of money, and you're just like, you it is hard. I find it hard, definitely, to like balance like reward and endeavor, you know, like that is tricky in what we do, really tricky.
True.
But I mean, that's a whole other basket of questions. But when you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. However, you don't work a day in your life.
There's a guilt attached to that as well. Like we were talking about talking to friends and stuff. It's like, you don't really want. There were times when we were flying all over the place doing crazy stuff, and I just didn't talk to anyone about it, even my family. I just didn't.
You can't, can you?
And it's because it's just like, I feel like a dickhead talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no stopping that. You just like, who you talking, and so that's why it's good talking to you guys, because you shared experience and other people in the office as well. It's like, it's good that we have a network. So I feel bad for anyone who literally does all of this stuff on their own, and then it's just like,
no wonder
probably a
they burn
mental
out.
mess at the end of it. Like, let's be honest. Like, we've met some people who are a mess, and I think that's contributed to it, where they've literally ridden on their own ego, and that only goes so far. So eventually they burn out, and then
you can literally build.
They've got money,
empire.
sure, but that's not
everything. Money is not everything.
Yeah, it's not. That you can tell, like, it's the same ethos of like billionaires, where the higher you build your empire, the more you distance yourself from actual reality. Like, you can build an empire from a bedroom now and have people revere you and worship you like some sort of deity, having never met any of them and having left the bedroom to enter the real world again. So imagine the sort of picture you could paint of like, well, everyone must love me, and I am like, I just ask for stuff and I get it, and I can buy whatever I want. That sort of person meeting someone else on the street that's like trying to just live on a day-to-day basis, living by the monthly paychecks. In a few years of just being isolated in a bedroom, having COVID, but like gaining 2 million subs of people that love you. Yeah, it'd be a huge disconnect from reality, I think. So we kind of kept ourselves in check, but there's still, like you say, we've crafted a unique lens for ourselves in these 10 years of being content creators. And sometimes you see that when you speak to regular people.
Yeah. Ego is everywhere in this industry. And it's just sickening and boring at this stage, like being some people who just clearly aren't down to earth. And when you do meet someone down to earth, it's really refreshing and nice. It's like, oh man, this person's not what I expected them to be. It's really nice. I'm glad that they haven't let it affect them. And yeah, it's quite rare, to be honest, like from our experience, but that is refreshing and nice. And yeah, it's a weird one. It's a very strange world.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process as well.
Yeah,
like as we're getting older, we change and we bring on new opinions, and our thoughts change as we go. So we kind of have to like rethink things on a daily or on a monthly basis of like, is everything? What's happening? What's our next steps? But we've figured it out for 10 years so far plus.
Yeah,
so,
doing all right.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So thanks everybody for supporting us.
I know.
And thanks today for listening to this podcast. Our patrons in particular, we thank you for making this a weekly occurrence now. It's been very fun to do it every week, actually. I think we've been doing well. Trott's been doing well, sending out the hypotheticals and stuff and keeping us all together. Ross has been putting it together afterwards and stuff. It's been very good. So thank you very much for everyone for supporting this. We are going to be back on Monday on the Jingle Jam live stream.
That's right. We're recording this
we
in
are
the midst of a charity drive.
Yeah, we're doing a charity drive. What time are we starting on Monday? Do you guys know?
5
Oh,
PM,
I think it starts at 5, but we'll want to get in there.
We're going 5 to 11. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's the normal time, and obviously if it overruns a little bit, that's normally
UK
fine.
Time. So if you
haven't heard since, but there might be an appearance from the Longest Johns.
I haven't heard
I haven't heard anything about that.
I guess we'll see. We'll find out at the time. But otherwise, we'll make it work with the stuff we've got.
So if you're listening later than December 6th, check that out on I guess a Jingle Jam highlights or something at some point.
We'll put it on our channel as well.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well,
I'll leave you with John Woodburn's Full Fingal, and until next week, have a good one. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.